Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. Preparations for high-level meetings at APEC are now in full swing here in South Korea, and the APEC CEO Summit is already underway in Gyeongju. In just a few moments, President Eizyong will deliver a speech at the CEO Summit, a four-day event which kicked off yesterday. The CEO Summit is set to bring together 1,700 business leaders, experts, and government representatives of APEC member economies to discuss regional economic cooperation, artificial intelligence, trade, energy transition, and biotechnology. And among them is NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, who is set to visit South Korea for the first time in 15 years. He is expected to give a keynote speech on Friday. That's the final day of the CEO Summit, and he will likely share the company's global innovation strategy and vision spanning artificial intelligence, robotics, digital twins, and autonomous driving. Huang is also scheduled to meet the head of Samsung Electronics, Eizyong, and SK Group Chairman Choi Tae-won. So again, in just a few moments, South Korean President Eizyong will deliver a speech at the CEO Summit in Gyeongju. That's a four-day event which kicked off yesterday. The summit is set to bring together 1,700 business leaders, experts, and government representatives of APEC member economies to discuss regional economic cooperation, AI, and trade. It appears that President Lee will deliver a speech now. We'll come back right afterwards.
여러분, 대한민국에 오신 것을 우리 국민들과 함께 진심으로 환영합니다. 감사합니다. 바쁜 시간을 내서 이 CEO 서밋에 함께해 주신 각국의 경제인 여러분, 대한민국 경주에 오신 것을 다시 한번 진심으로 크게 환영합니다. 반갑습니다. 조화와 화합의 정신으로 번영을 일궈낸 천년 신라의 고도, 이곳 경주에서 여러분을 맞이할 수 있어서 참으로 기쁩니다. 이 뜻깊은 행사를 성대하게 준비해 주신 존경하는 최태원 회장님, 그리고 관계자 여러분께 깊은 감사의 인사를 드립니다. APEC이 지난 36년간 걸어온 여정은 협력과 연대로 공동 번영을 이뤄낼 수 있다는 것을 보여준 눈부신 성장의 역사였습니다. 그 중심에는 시대적 과제의 해법을 함께 만들어 온 CEO 서밋에 여러분 기업인들이 계시다는 것을 잘 압니다. 1996년에 문을 연 CEO 서밋은 정부와 기업, 시장과 정책을 하나로 연결하는 가교 역할을 톡톡하게 해냈습니다. 금융과 경제, 바이오와 헬스케어, AI와 디지털 분야까지 여러분들의 열정과 통찰은 혁신의 씨앗이 되어 변화하는 아름드리 나무로 자라났습니다. 1998년에 도입된 APEC 기업인 여행카드는 우리 기업인들의 제안으로 시작된 대표적인 성과입니다. 비자 없이 패스트트랙으로 출입국이 가능한 이 카드 덕분에 아태 지역의 인적 교류와 비즈니스가 훨씬 활발해졌습니다. 앞으로도 그 역할을 충실히 이어갈 것입니다. 2011년 마련되었던 국경 간 개인정보 보호 제도도 마찬가지입니다. 개인정보를 보호하면서도 데이터는 자유롭게 오가야 한다는 우리 기업인들의 지속적인 제안이 이제는 전 세계가 주목하는 국제적 협력의 모범적 사례가 되었습니다. 오늘 CEO 서밋 역시 위기의 해법을 함께 모색하고 더 나은 세상을 향해 한 발 나아간 귀중한 만남으로 역사에 기록될 것입니다. 존경하는 기업인 여러분, 20년 전 대한민국 부산에서 열린 APEC 정상회의는 APEC의 역사는 물론 자유무역 체제의 역사에 있어서도 매우 중요한 전환점이었습니다. 당시 의장국이던 우리 대한민국이 발표한 부산 로드맵에는 자유롭고 개방된 무역 체제를 지지하는 회원 여러분의 단합된 목소리가 담겨 있었습니다. 그러나 2025년 오늘날 APEC을 둘러싼 대외적 환경은 그때와는 많이 다릅니다. 보호무역주의와 자국 우선주의가 고개를 들며 당장의 생존이 시급한 시대에 협력과 상생, 포용적 성장이라는 말이 공허하게 들릴지도 모르겠습니다. 그렇지만 이러한 위기 상황일수록 역설적으로 연대의 플랫폼인 APEC의 역할이 더욱 빛을 발할 것입니다. 어려울 때 친구가 진짜 친구라는 말이 있습니다. APEC은 위기의 순간마다 서로의 손을 잡고 연대하며 상호 신뢰가 상호 번영의 지름길임을 입증해 왔습니다. APEC은 글로벌 팬데믹이라는 전례 없는 위기 앞에서도 의료 물품과 필수 인력의 자유로운 이동을 위해서 협력했습니다. 함께 경제 회복을 위한 지혜를 모아왔습니다. 20년 전 APEC에 단결된 의지를 모아냈던 대한민국이 다시 APEC의 의장국으로서 위기에 맞설 다자주의적 협력의 길을 선도하려고 합니다. 이곳 경주는 우리가 되새겨야 할 협력과 연대의 가치가 오롯이 녹아있는 최적의 장소라고 자부합니다. 삼국시대의 패권 경쟁과 외세의 압박 속에서도 천년왕국 신라는 시종일관, 외부 문화와의 교류 그리고 개방을 멈추지 않았습니다. 그 힘으로 분열을 넘어 삼국을 통일하고 한반도의 통합의 새 시대를 열어냈습니다. 날마다 새로워지며 사방을 아울렀던 신라의 정신이야말로 이번 APEC의 정상회의 주제인 연결, 혁신, 번영의 가치와 맞닿아 있다고 확신합니다. 연결은 단절의 시대를 잇는 연대의 힘입니다. 대한민국은 글로벌 책임 강국으로서 영내 신뢰와 협력의 연결고리를 회복하는 데 크게 기여할 것입니다. 특히 공급망 협력이 핵심입니다. 대한민국은 APEC 최초로 공급망의 지속 가능성을 화두로 민관 합동 포럼을 개최하여 민간이 공급망 논의에 적극적으로 참여할 길을 열었습니다. 또한 2023년 공급망 안정화법을 제정하여 국내외 공급망에 대한 위기 대응 체계를 구축했습니다. 지난 5월 통상장관회의에서는 APEC 연결성 청사진의 이행을 마무리하고 앞으로 디지털 연결을 통해 인적, 물적, 제도적 연결성을 더욱 강화해 나가기로 했습니다. 이곳 경주의 목조 건축물 중에 아시겠지만 수막새라는 전통 기와가 있습니다. 처마 끝에서 빗물과 바람으로부터 건물을 지켜내고 서로 다른 기와 조각들을 단단히 이어 하나의 지붕을 완성합니다. 연결의 지혜를 품은 수막새가 천년 세월을 버티며 동아시아 문명의 지붕을 지켜왔던 것처럼 인적, 물적, 제도적 연결이야말로 APEC의 성장과 번역을 위한 든든한 지붕이 되어줄 것입니다. 다음으로 혁신은 미래 성장의 기반이자 핵심 수단입니다. 오늘날 지속 가능한 발전을 이끌 혁신의 핵심은 바로 인공지능입니다. 대한민국은 지난 5월 통상장관회의에서 통관, 행정 분야에서의 인공지능 기술 도입과 인공지능 기술 및 그 표준에 대해 논의하였고 인공지능 활용에 관한 협력의 토대를 마련했습니다. 지난 9월 인공지능 전략위원회를 구성해서 AI 시대를 맞이할 대대적인 준비를 하고 있고 인공지능 고속도로 건설에도 힘쓰고 있습니다. 산업 발전과 인공지능의 책임 있는 이용 사이의 균형을 이룰 인공지능 기본법 또한 시행을 앞두고 있습니다. 여러분이 계신 이 경주에는 동양에서 가장 오래된 천문대인 첨성대가 있습니다. 데이터를 기반으로 별의 움직임을 읽어낸 첨성대처럼 인공지능 또한 데이터의 기초에 인류의 새로운 통찰과 방향을 제시할 지성의 엔진이 될 것입니다. 우리 대한민국은 이번 정상회의에서 인공지능 이니셔티브를 제안할 것입니다. 모두를 위한 인공지능의 비전이 APEC의 뉴 노멀로 자리 잡을 수 있기를 기대합니다. 그리고 마지막으로 번영은 미래 세대를 위한 약속이라는 점을 말씀드립니다. APEC은 지난 세월 자유무역과 투자 자유화의 선봉에서 역내의 경제 성장을 이끌어왔습니다. 이제 지속가능한 발전과 공동 번영의 꿈을 실현하기 위해 성장의 기회와 가시를 고루 나누는 일에 함께 힘써야 합니다. 2005년 한국의 주도로 설립된 APEC 중소기업 혁신센터는 지금까지도 아태 지역 중소기업을 대상으로 맞춤형 컨설팅 서비스를 제공하고 있습니다. 2012년부터는 개도국 역량 강화 사업을 통해 지적재산권, 통상 분쟁 해결, 원산지 규정 등 한국이 축적한 노하우와 정보를 꾸준하게 공유하고 있습니다. 올해 9월 중소기업 장관회의에서 채택된 제주 이니셔티브를 통해 중소기업의 성장과 글로벌 시장 진출을 지원하는 APEC 스타트업 얼라이언스를 발족했습니다. 우리 대한민국은 앞으로도 경제 성장과 발전의 경험을 아낌없이 나누는 선도국가로서의 역할을 마다하지 않겠습니다. APEC의 미래를 책임질 청년 인재 육성에도 힘쓰겠습니다. 올해 8월 대한민국은 APEC 미래 번영 기금을 설립하고 100만 달러를 기여하였습니다. 청년들의 지식 교류와 디지털 역량 강화는 물론 인구, 환경 문제 등 핵심 과제에 관한 연구, 창업 지원과 기술 훈련 등 5대 중점 분야를 우선 지원할 예정입니다. 신라의 화랑 제도가 젊은 인재를 육성하고 통일왕국의 시대를 열어냈던 것처럼 APEC의 미래 인재 육성 프로그램이야말로 지속 가능한 성장과 공동 번영의 초석이 될 것입니다. 존경하는 경제인 여러분, 우리 대한민국은 예로부터 다양한 것이 한데 어울리며 아름다운 화음을 이루는 조화의 정신을 중요한 민족입니다. 최근 전 세계적 열풍을 일으킨 K-팝 데몬 헌터스에서는 K-팝 아이돌과 팬들이 강력한 연대로 어둠을 물리치는 혼문을 완성합니다. 위기와 불확실성의 시대일수록 하나 되는 연대와 협력이 우리 모두를 더 밝은 미래로 이끄는 비결입니다. 이 자명한 진리는 지난 겨울 5세계 응원봉으로 내란의 어둠을 몰아낸 우리 대한민국의 K민주주의가 증명한 것이기도 합니다. 호흡을 못 맞춰서 미안합니다. 4개 대륙 21개 경제체제가 연결된 협력의 무대 2025 APEC을 미래로 도약할 모두의 무대로 만들어 주실 것으로 믿습니다. 전쟁의 빚더미에서 산업화를 일궈내고 역사의 구비구비마다 민주주의를 지켜내온 우리 대한민국의 역사가 그리고 오늘의 우리 대한민국이 여러분에게 위기를 헤쳐갈 영감과 용기를 선사할 수 있기를 기대합니다. 고맙습니다.
Now that was President Eizyong in Gyeongju delivering a speech at the APEC CEO Summit. He said the CEO Summit will act as grounds for innovation and that the event marks a key turning point in global free trade. President Lee also highlighted that APEC stands as center of cooperation and solidarity, and that South Korea will declare an AI initiative at this year's APEC that will set a new norm for artificial intelligence. So President Eizyong kicked off his APEC 2025 Korea engagements in Gyeongju this morning, speaking at the APEC CEO Summit. For more on this, our presidential office correspondent Song Yoo-jin joins us live from the APEC 2025 Korea International Media Center. Yoo-jin.
Right, Eun-ji, good morning. As you just mentioned, President Eizyong wrapped up his special address at the APEC CEO Summit Korea 2025. His 15-minute speech focused and centered on two main themes, which is what kind of role the CEO Summit has played in advancing the APEC Forum, whose member economies account for more than 60% of the world's GDP. And second, how South Korea aims to really contribute to the growth and innovation and the inclusive growth of the APEC region, the Asia-Pacific region. Now, the CEO Summit, which began yesterday, brings together 1,700 CEOs, business leaders, experts, and government representatives from the member economies. However, I think that you will also agree that the highlight of today will undoubtedly be the South Korea-U.S. Summit that will take place at the Gyeongju National Museum in the afternoon. For the second time, President Lee will be sitting down with President Donald Trump, who is making a two-day state visit to South Korea starting today. The two leaders first met at the White House back in August.
As this year's APEC chair, South Korea will pursue active platform diplomacy, building on the progress made at the UN General Assembly to take our summit diplomacy to the next level. With the United States, we'll be achieving the fastest ever reciprocal visits between leaders.
So according to South Korea's presidential office, the government will award Trump the Grand Order of Mugunghwa, the country's highest order. This is a decoration reserved exclusively for heads of state who have significantly contributed to South Korea's security. Trump will be the first American leader to receive the award. He'll also be presented with a replica of a royal golden crown, a symbol of the ancient Schilla Kingdom, whose capital was Gyeongju.
Right, Yoo-jin, and what can we expect from the summit itself?
So, Eun-ji, as you know, the E-Trump summit is drawing significant attention as the two sides have a number of issues to discuss, ranging from trade, security, and diplomacy. So, starting off with trade, there's that long-delayed trade deal that would reduce U.S. tariffs on South Korean imports. The deal hinges on the $350 billion investment pledge by South Korea, with the two sides remaining divided over how the funds should be managed. As you know, Washington wants most of the investment in cash, while Seoul prefers loans and guarantees to minimize the impact on its domestic economy. Moving on to security, the allies are working on a new deal, which could include South Korea boosting its defense spending and revising the bilateral nuclear cooperation agreement to expand Seoul's ability to reprocess spent fuel and enrich uranium for civilian energy use. And of course, we cannot talk about North Korea because during their August summit, President Lee asked President Trump to be a peacemaker and help bring Pyongyang back to dialogue. And there's even speculation that Trump could have a surprise meeting with North Korean Kim Jong-un just like in 2019, with Trump saying that he'd love to meet the North Korean leader if he wants to. So it's definitely shaping up to be a high-stakes day of diplomacy. Back to you, Eun-ji.
All right, a lot of issues on the agenda. Thank you for that, Yoo-jin. Do keep us updated. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Kim Min-seok hosted a welcome reception for the APEC CEO Summit Korea 2025 on Tuesday at the Gyeongju Hwarang Village. In his welcome address, the Prime Minister underscored the need for stronger global economic cooperation, saying challenges such as rising geopolitical tensions, supply chain disruptions, and rising protectionism cannot be solved without collective action. He also highlighted the role of businesses in driving innovation and growth. The four-day event, which kicked off on Tuesday, will bring together more than 1,000 CEOs, experts, and government representatives from member economies under the theme Bridge, Business, and Beyond. And over in North Korea, the regime said it test-fired ship-to-ground cruise missiles from the West Sea, just a day before U.S. President Donald Trump arrived in South Korea, who is expected to be here today. The launch comes as Pyongyang remains silent on Trump's proposal for a possible meeting at the demilitarized zone. Our Pyongyang has more.
North Korea said it test-fired strategic cruise missiles from the West Sea on Tuesday, a day before U.S. President Donald Trump's visit to South Korea to meet with President Eizyong in Gyeongju. According to the North state-run Korean Central News Agency on Tuesday, the missiles were launched vertically from a warship and flew for more than 2 hours before striking their intended target. Kim Jong-un was not present at the launch, and North Korean state media, including the Rodong-sinmun, did not report on the test, a move that observers say may indicate Pyongyang sought to limit the level of provocation. Park Jong-cheon, vice chairman of the ruling party's Central Military Commission who oversaw the launch, said the test was part of efforts to continuously expand the operational space of North Korea's war deterrence means and to enhance the reliability of strategic attack systems. The missile launch came as Trump continues to express willingness to meet the North Korean leader at the demilitarized zone during his stay in South Korea. However, North Korea has yet to respond to Trump's proposal. This shows a contrast to 2019, when the then Vice Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee replied just hours after Trump's surprise tweet proposing a DMZ meeting that led to their brief encounter at Panmunjom. Analysts say Kim's silence may reflect caution amid Washington's continued push for denuclearization, despite Trump hinting at possible sanctions relief. Pyongyang also appears to be bolstering ties with China and Russia to gain leverage before any talks with the U.S. Pyongyang, Arirang News.
So a series of diplomatic events will take place starting today in Gyeongju on the sidelines of APEC leaders meeting. For more on this, we're joined today by Mason Ritchie, Professor of International Politics at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Professor Ritchie, thanks for joining us this morning.
So, good morning.
Presidents Eizyong and Donald Trump are set to meet this afternoon. Do you expect them to make any meaningful progress on trade issues?
Well, it certainly is the case that apparently relatively significant differences remain in the investment components of the deal that the U.S. is trying to force on South Korea. And so I think that the real question is, in terms of the high stakes here, is whether or not the pressure from Trump, obviously direct pressure on Lee, but also on the sort of domestic political scene in South Korea is going to be significant enough to get Lee to buckle and make some concessions that his negotiators on his orders haven't wanted to make yet. Or alternately, is the flattery, the scenes of decorum and honor, plus whatever personal rapport Lee has with Trump, is that going to allow Lee to sort of convince Trump maybe to scale down a little bit his ambitions and the things that he's told his negotiators to do? So I think that's a sort of top line. Beyond that, you have a sort of negotiating question, which is what are the fallback positions for the two sides? In political science, we call this a BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And basically, the side that has a better fallback position is generally the one that's going to be better off in the deal. And the U.S. presumably has more leverage and therefore has a better fallback position. But South Korea has been hanging remarkably tough in the negotiations so far on this investment component, and the security and economic connection, of course, also complicates the negotiations more. So I don't think we have a real clear answer to what's going to be worked out here in terms of the top line, much less how that ends up being worked out in detail in the weeks to follow.
Right, we'll have to see how that goes. And Trump also said he wants to meet Kim Jong-un and even suggested the idea of adjusting sanctions against the regime. But instead of responding to Trump's call, North Korea carried out cruise missile tests and said they carried out these tests this morning. What's your take on this?
Well, Trump really seems to want this meeting, and he's been telegraphing that for weeks, if not even more in some respects. But Kim just doesn't seem, at least publicly, to have reached out, and both government and other inside sources seem to be pretty negative about whether or not this meeting can take place. And of course, Trump is not scheduled to be in Korea for very long. Now, of course, it's always possible that he could pull a rabbit out of the hat at the last moment and go up to the joint security area and have another, very fast, rapid surprise meeting like he had in 2019 when he was in Japan, and the call was quickly made for him to go meet Kim at the JSA after the failure of the Hanoi summit. So something like that could happen. I think the teams here in Korea have been gaming out how that would work so they don't get caught flat-footed. But Kim doesn't seem to be interested right now for whatever reason. And the missile launches that have taken place recently, seem to sort of underscore that in some respect. So I don't anticipate it being the case. And even if it were the case, it would be clearly symbolic at this point rather than anything substantive, since there hasn't been any actual working or even senior level negotiations that could have put something in place. So this would just be a photo op meet and greet, which is not by itself necessarily a bad thing, but certainly wouldn't produce anything substantive.
I see. And while that's happening, a lot of attention is also on the Trump-Xi summit that's expected to take place in Busan. How do you think the meeting is going to play out? Can we expect the two sides to reach an agreement on trade? And will they also discuss security issues while they're meeting in Busan?
Yeah, so the Trump-Xi meeting is really getting, from an international perspective, a huge amount of attention. In fact, I was just in China, and as you can imagine there, the discussion, around all of the summitry taking place in Korea this week was focused much more on Trump and Xi than it was on the actual multilateral meeting at APEC or the business leaders meeting or the Li-Xi meeting even. So this is obviously where a huge amount of attention is because it has such global ramifications. Honestly, I don't expect from what we can see that we're going to see a breakthrough in U.S.-China relations. Both positions are really hardened. I think that China, really thinks that it has a lot of leverage, notably, of course, with its rare earths export controls. Its sort of version of the U.S. foreign direct product rule that it's using for rare earths and rare earth components and technologies. Trump has repeatedly said, of course, that the United States has better cards to play in their negotiating. So both sides, I think, are hardened. I think, obviously, for the cameras, we're going to see some type of, statement, certainly at least from Trump, sort of talking his position that, the meeting that he's had with Xi, based on the personal rapport that only he has with Xi, will produce some positive benefits and will put a floor on the relationship. But I think, going forward strategically, none of the underlying economic rivalry between the U.S. and China is going to be solved. And then in addition to that, you have a whole set of security issues, which may or may not be in any significant way evoked. But I'm sure that we'll get some statements from both sides on stability in the region and that sort of thing. But I don't anticipate anything significant that's really going to dial down the temperature strategically over the medium term between Washington and Beijing.
I see. We'll have to see how that meeting plays out. All right, Professor Richie, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Once the capital of the Schilla Kingdom, Gyeongju is reviving its 1,000-year-old spirit ahead of APEC 2025 Korea. An exhibition there brings Shilla's golden age to life, where art, faith, and global exchange once thrived. Our Park Hyubin has a story.
The host city of APEC 2025 Korea, Gyeongju was once the capital of the ancient Schilla Kingdom that shaped Korea's golden age of art and culture. Now an exhibition titled Scent of Korea in Silla is underway at the Gyeongju Expo Seoul Art Museum, bringing the spirit of Silla back to life.
Based on Shilla's culture and history, this exhibition aims to share Korea's heritage with the world and shed new light on its historical value.
Upon entry, visitors are greeted by a 5-meter scroll of silver principal Buddha from Seokguram Grotto, flanked by Tabotap and Seokgatap, Korea's most iconic stone pagodas. Each piece is painted with real gold and silver, capturing the spiritual glow of the Silla era. In front, a black pond reflects both the artworks and the viewer, linking past, present, and future. Another section connects tradition with modernity through glass art. Some 250 recycled glass bottles symbolize both stability and Silla's long history of cultural exchange along the Silk Road.
I wanted to revive the shapes of Roman glass that once entered Silla through the Silk Road, using today's glass-making techniques.
The highlight of the exhibition is the masterpiece by artist Park Dae-sung, the largest work of his 80-year career. Behind me is Korea Fantasy, a 12-meter-long painting that brings together Korea's most iconic symbols. Looking closely, it's filled with the essence of Korean heritage, from Hawaii masks to the smile of Silla, all set against a panoramic Korean landscape. Through these works, the exhibition reimagines Silla's flourishing era of culture, trade, and Buddhism, a reflection of how its legacy continues to breathe through the art of modern Korea. Park Hyubin, Arirang News, Gyeongju.
The International Gold Spot Prize fell on Tuesday as hopes grew for easing trade tensions between the United States and China. As of 1:45 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time Standard, the spot gold price fell to $3,964.35 per ounce, the lowest in nearly 3 weeks. December gold futures also slipped 0.9% to $3,983.10. Prices have dropped about 10% since the October 20th peak, signaling a correction. Experts say optimism ahead of the U.S.-China summit has reduced demand for safe haven assets like gold. And despite a U.S. brokered ceasefire, Israel carried out a series of airstrikes in Gaza after it accused Hamas of violating the truce and attacking Israeli troops. Our Eizyong has more.
Tensions in Gaza flared again on Tuesday, despite an ongoing U.S. brokered ceasefire. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency said Israel carried out a series of airstrikes after accusing Hamas of violating the truce and attacking Israeli troops. At least 2 people were killed when one strike hit a house in Gaza City. The agency said 3 strikes in total were launched, including one near Al-Shifa Hospital. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office confirmed he ordered what it called powerful strikes in response to what Israel says were attacks by Hamas on its soldiers inside Gaza. The latest escalation also comes as Netanyahu revealed that the remains returned by Hamas on Monday were actually body parts belonging to a victim recovered nearly 2 years ago. He called the move a clear violation of the ceasefire agreement and said he would convene military and defense chiefs for an emergency meeting to decide Israel's next steps. Israeli media report possible options include halting humanitarian aid, expanding Israeli control in Gaza, or striking Hamas leadership. 13 hostage bodies are still believed to be in Gaza, and the slow return of those remains is threatening to derail the fragile truce. Hamas has claimed difficulty locating the bodies due to widespread destruction, while Israel accuses the group of deliberately stalling. 이승재, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choo Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. U.S. tech giant Amazon confirmed on Tuesday plans to cut 14,000 corporate jobs this year, a major restructuring designed to prepare the company for the AI era. The cuts, about 4% of Amazon's global corporate workforce, begin this week as part of a broader plan to make the company leaner and faster, according to a memo from Senior Vice President Beth Gilady. Gilady said the move will help Amazon operate like the world's biggest startup and respond quickly as artificial intelligence reshapes the tech industry. Amazon also says it will hire in key areas and prioritize affected staff for new roles. The company, which previously cut 27,000 positions in 2023, has warned that further job reductions may follow as automation replaces some human work. In Rio de Janeiro on Tuesday, at least 64 people were killed in the city's deadliest police operation ever, just days before it hosts major global climate events. Officials say the raid targeted a criminal gang network known as the Red Command. The death toll confirmed by Rio Governor Claudio Castro includes 4 police officers and is more than double the previous record for fatalities in a single police action. The raid came ahead of the next week's C40 Climate Summit and Prince William's Earthshot Prize ceremony. Authorities have a history of mounting large-scale operations before major international gatherings, including the 2016 Olympics and the 2024 G20 Summit. In Kenya, a small passenger plane crashed early Tuesday morning, killing 10 tourists and a local pilot. The aircraft was flying the resort down from Diani to the Masai Mara Game Park when it crashed at 5:30 a.m. local time. Authorities say the victims were 8 Hungarians, 2 Germans, and a Kenyan pilot. Officials have launched an investigation into the crash, citing poor weather and low visibility as possible factors. The Kenya Civil Aviation Authority says recovery operations are underway, while the airline Mombasa Air Safari is providing support to victims' families. In Lagos, Nigeria on Tuesday, the United States revoked the visa of Wole Soyinka, the Nobel Prize-winning author and Africa's first Nobel laureate in literature. Soyinka, aged 91, revealed at a literary event that the U.S. consulate in Lagos asked him to surrender his passport so his visa could be physically canceled. He described the notice as a curious love letter and joked that he was too busy to comply. The revocation ends his ability to travel to the United States for cultural and literary events where he previously taught and lectured for decades. Soyinka said he had torn up his U.S. green card and renounced his American residency in protest over Donald Trump's first presidential election win.
Yesterday marked the coldest day of the autumn season so far. The early cold brought the first frost and ice to Seoul earlier than last year. And that cold snap will retreat starting this afternoon and the chill will gradually ease, meaning big gaps in temperatures across much of the country. Great weather is expected for the host city of the APEC Summit, Gyeongju. After a freezing start to the day, Gyeongju will warm up nicely to 17 degrees Celsius this afternoon, ensuring ideal conditions throughout the conference period under fairly sunny skies. Taking a closer look at today's highs now, Seoul, Daegu, Gwangju will be seeing a high of 18 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Gyeongju will be topping out at 17 degrees under sunny skies nationwide. Temperatures are forecast to drop to below norms again on Sunday. Be sure to dress in layers to combat these huge temperature differences. Many are coming down with a cold.
That is all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.